Hello everyone, and welcome to the North American Bear Center. I'd like to thank our visitors for coming in today, and we also have our online viewers watching this live podcast. Right now it's 4 o'clock, which means dinner time for the bears. We have Holly, Holly is our 2-year-old female, Lucky, our 8-year-old male, are in the big enclosure right now. They are somewhere in the 2.5 acres. We have our educators down below deck. They're going to try and call them down to coax them for dinner, so you can watch them have their dinner as they get their enrichment. You can hear them calling below. The bears do recognize their names. They're intelligent animals, and they recognize the tone and the voice of the people calling them. So we are trained to work with these bears so that they get used to us and they learn our voice along with our smell, so they recognize us. And hopefully that means they do respond when we call to them. So when we call them down for the enrichments, or to get them in and out of their individual dens, they will listen and respond because they recognize us. As we wait for them to come down, they are getting their dinner tonight, and you might ask, well, what's on the menu for dinner? We have several things they get for dinner, and we try to keep it as natural to their diet as possible, because for black bears, they're omnivores. They eat a variety of things, so I do know with dinner, and I see, oh, yep, coming from the tree line directly behind the pond is Lucky. Lucky is coming from the trees directly behind the pond. That is our 8-year-old male. He is a gorgeous, handsome black bear at 378 pounds, right in that normal average range of 300 to 400 pounds. He's behind the high falls, moving towards the rock den, down to where the educators are calling him. He's taking his time. He knows that he has all the time he needs, and he'll get his dinner when he gets there. Yep, there he is, close to behind the rock den right now, coming on down. And I say this as much for our educators so they know where he is, along with the camera driver, the PTZ driver that's online. And I see Holly behind the high falls as well. Thank you for those on the deck helping me find the bears. Holly is coming from behind the high falls towards the rock den as well. Holly, our 2-year-old female. And with their dinner tonight, they have some peanuts, hazelnuts, they have fruit, they get little carrots, they get some grapes, and also different vegetation. Sometimes they get romaine for vegetation. They also can get carrots, like I had mentioned. Other berries and nuts. It's just that normal basic bear diet of the omnivore, because that's what they eat in the wild, is succulent vegetation, fruits, berries, the nuts. And what they get is all fresh food. It's not rotting, it's not about to go bad, it's all good, fresh stuff. Because we kind of say, if we're not going to eat it, we don't give it to the bears. So they get good, fresh things. Looks like Holly's picking out Lucky's dinner and deciding not to go for her box. There is a reason that we put Holly's dinner in a box and that Lucky gets his tossed to him. Sometimes the bears also get the food in the bag. Lucky has the habit of he'll take the bag of food and wander back off into the woods. We call that his dinner to go. So we'll sometimes have the food laid out for him down here so that he is visible for the peoples and visitors to see. And then when we talk about him, it's a little more fun to have him visible when we talk about his story. And sometimes Holly gets her dinner in a bag or in a box. Today it is in a box, and it's in a box from nuts.com. And we would like to thank our very gracious donators that help donate nuts to the center that we provide for the bears. Thank you for those that donate and get the boxes from nuts.com, and that's the box that Holly is eating out of from our latest shipment of nuts. And another point of having it in the box is that Holly has to tear it open. That's kind of part of the enrichment. Think of bears in the wild when they're walking around and they're foraging. They turn over rocks, they tear open logs, and they root around between the trees and the vegetation when they look for food. It's mental stimulation as much as physical. Bears use their brains. They're quite intelligent. So here in captivity, we want to try and stimulate the mind as much as the body. So by having them have to tear open a box or a bag, it kind of stimulates and simulates what they would do in the wild with tearing open a log or turning over a rock. Kind of makes them work for it, just like they would naturally. Instead of just giving it to them, they kind of have to think, and that's what helps them. So Holly digs on into her box. I guess she's kind of hiding behind it for the viewers. That's not very fun, Holly. But she's digging into her meal, and you saw she pulled out a carrot. She gets the carrots. She has some cranberries in there and peanuts. And what we have is our homemade trail mix. And when I say trail mix, it's not the stuff it's not store-bought. You know, you think a store-bought trail mix has berries and nuts and candy, but we don't put candy in our trail mix, so that's not what bears eat. Our homemade trail mix is a mix of kibble, peanuts, and a dried fruit. Right now we're using cranberry. Sometimes we might use another nut, maybe a little Brazil nut or a hazelnut, and then maybe other dried fruit as well. So it's a homemade trail mix. It adds a nice variety to the bear diet, so it's not the same repetition over and over. We monitor the bear diet to make sure they're getting what they need depending on the time of year, and also what they show for preferences. If they're not eating a certain food we give them, we'll take that out of their diet and try to give them something else that they'll eat instead, so that we're not wasting food and they're getting what they need. Well, let's talk about the bears while they're here. We have Lucky. He is down by the scale. That is our 8-year-old male. And his story is that he was born to a wild mother from the state of Wisconsin. Somehow he got separated from his mother in the den. We don't know how. But the Wisconsin DNR had found him wandering, so they had picked him up to take him to a rehab facility to see if they could help him. The rehab facility determined Lucky could not be released back to the wild, so he had to find a permanent home. For bears in that situation where they are non-releasable, it's either finding a permanent home or being euthanized. So when they contacted us, we were glad to take him in. Lucky came here in the summer of 2007 as a 6-month-old cub. So he was young when he came here, and we were very lucky to have him, and that's how we got his name. And like I said, he is 378 pounds. He's a good-sized bear, but he is average for a fully mature adult male. And he has the gorgeous coat, that nice glossy black, and he has his own personality just like all the other bears do as well. Lucky is playful. He's pretty chill most of the time. He'll kind of hang around and do his thing. He might hang up in the white pine tree or swim around in the pond, or he'll play with Holly, and I'll get to that more when I talk about her. Lucky will pick around his favorite foods. He enjoys the nuts that he gets in dinner, along with the cranberries. And I know they also got an apple for dinner today as well. And Lucky's taking a drink from the water right now, and he might check out what Holly's doing. But let's talk about Holly too. Holly's a 2-year-old female. She was also born to a wild mother, but she's actually from the state of Arkansas. That's a long ways away, all the way from Arkansas. What happened with her was she was separated from her mother by a wildfire, and a family had picked her up after the fire trying to help her, and the family would have had good intentions trying to help the little cub, but it is illegal to take a bear out of the wild and try to raise it. There are certain permits, requirements, and regulations to owning certain animals that also can vary by state, and it is illegal to take the bear out of the wild, and they didn't have the right licenses and permits, so they meant well trying to help, but they didn't quite go about it the right way. A good thing to do if you think a bear or any wild animal needs help is to call a rehabber or a conservation officer. But so the Arkansas Fish and Game had found out about Holly, and they confiscated her to take her to a rehab facility where she could get some help and they could try to work with her. After working with her, they determined she could not be released back to the wild, and they had to find her a permanent home. They contacted the Bear Center, and Holly came here December of 2013, and that's how she got her name, Holly. She came around the holiday season and was named after the holly berry, so she's Holly Bear. And she's been here for about a year and a half, and she's 2 years old. And as you notice, Lucky and Holly were both eating out of the box together. And I mentioned they play together. That's not something you would see in the wild. An 8-year-old male and a 2-year-old female playing together, sharing food, and being good friends. Because in the wild, it's about eating and reproducing, especially for the males. So that's not what they would do out in the wild as much. But here in the enclosure, they have formed that friendship, and they don't mind because they always have a good food year. They don't have to worry about where the next meal comes from, and they're safe, and they have formed this bond. They often play together and run around the enclosure, which fits Holly's personality because she is a very playful, very curious bear, quite persistent when she wants to be. So she is often seen sometimes roaming around the enclosure, exploring, running around. She'll bat at the bushes, climb the trees, or splash in the pond. Very playful and all over the place sometimes. She has rambunctious modes now and then where she'll just go back and forth all over, playing with bursts of energies, and it's very fun to watch. Because in the wild, we don't always get to see that natural playfulness of black bears, but here in the enclosure we can see that playful side of the bears, which is always very enjoying. You might also notice that Holly looks a little raggedy right now. Along her back is that brownish fur. She is shedding. All of our black bears still have their winter coats that are just starting to shed out. Holly is the furthest along in her shed, and that's what those puffs of brownish hair are. It's her undercoat coming out. So she is perfectly healthy. She's absolutely fine. She's just shedding out the fur, which is a good thing. She's shedding out that old winter coat. It'll be cooler in the summer, and then eventually she'll start growing in the next coat for winter. You might also wonder, well, do you brush the bears to help them get out the coat? Well, we don't. They don't need our help, because for bears in the wild and in the enclosure, as they walk along the forest, think of the pine trees and the branches and sticks that are poking out. They catch the hair as the bears walk along, and it acts like a natural comb pulling out the loose hair. The bears can also rub against trees or paw at the fur. They'll kind of scratch it out. So they don't need our help to brush it out. We let them do their own thing, and they get it out on their own. So we've seen Holly's been rubbing against the trees. Honey, our 19-year-old female, also rubs her back against the trees and works out the hair. Lucky's coat doesn't quite shed the same as Holly's. It's not quite as clumped out like that. It's a little more gradual, I think. But we see that Holly is on the scale right now, and Lucky's on the cedar pile. Holly's looking for more food and looking to the keepers for it. And it looks like Lucky might be finishing off what Holly decided not to eat for her dinner. Other things we have going on at the Bear Center I'd like to talk about quick is, for those of you here, or if you were here earlier in the day, the Northwoods Ecology Hall is almost done. You can see that at the back of the building from where you came in. It has the moose inside, a caribou, a white-tailed deer, and a wolf. The Northwoods Ecology Hall will be opened July 18th. That'll be the grand opening. And that part of the building is dedicated to all the other animals that live in this area of Ely that bears might encounter. We'll have information on so many different species, from mammals to birds and fish, reptiles, amphibians, all of them, all the different native species. The information will be available in there, the different mounts that you can see, along with a tank of live fish and tanks for live snakes, turtles, and frogs. So you can plan a trip to come check that out when it opens later on in the summer, or you can come by next summer and it'll still be around as well. And again, that is July 18th will be the grand opening. And also here at the Bear Center, for those visiting or plan to visit in the future, we have memberships that are available. We have several different memberships, including family and grandparents. And if you have questions about these, feel free to talk to our sales associate at the front desk where you came in. But I can tell you some of the benefits of the membership, and that is you get in free to the Bear Center for a year. You get 10% off in the gift shop. And you also get a free gift, limited time only. There is a free gift when you sign up for a membership, and you can choose between the Bear Walker DVD, which features Dr. Rogers and his research and the bears he worked with, or you can choose, it's a digital book set about Lily, Faith, and Hope, the original research bears that Dr. Rogers worked with that kind of helped get this all going, and it's kind of their story. You can choose between those two gifts when you sign up for membership, and those are limited, so it's when they run out, they run out. And that is when you sign up for the membership, you can pick that as well. And again, if you have more questions about the memberships, feel free to talk to our sales associate at the front desk or check online at bear.org. And also for those in the Ely area, if you want to learn more about wildlife and see other animals that are around here, there is the International Wolf Center on the other side of Ely. On the opposite end from where the Bear Center is. They have ambassador wolves, just like we have ambassador bears. They're open every day, so if you'd like to check them out, head on down to the International Wolf Center on the opposite end of Ely. And again, I would like to thank everyone for coming in today to see our bears, meet them, see the exhibits we have up, and learn about all the information we have about black bears. And I'd like to thank our online viewers as well that tune in for this live podcast. These enrichment programs are every day for the rest of the summer at 11, 1, and 4. So whether you're going to be here tomorrow, later in the summer, or you want to watch online, you can watch on bear.org on the live cameras. And thank you once again for coming in again, everyone, and we hope you'll tune in for another broadcast. Thank you.